Welcome to my Thoughts on Tape, outside the box with CB St. Julian and Molecule. I'm asking you to think, where did you acquire your knowledge? Is it your knowledge? And are you personally responsible for the knowledge you have acquired? Have you acquired knowledge of God? Have you learned those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it? The core idea being that ignoring historical lessons, personal or societal, leads to repeating negative outcomes, while understanding them allows for growth and better decision making for individuals, communities, and the whole human race. Examples include disastrous invasions, military overreach, economic excessive credit expansion leading to financial collapse, recession, and the Great Depression. Notes Notre Dame of Orange and Nazareth. Utilizing Socratic methods and critical thinking to study and analyze human history, especially its moral aspects, fosters knowledge, wisdom, and enlightenment to drive societal evolution and prevent recurring cycles of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. In defense of Athens, Greece, the house of Judea, the land of Hesperia, and the first civilized human society in a world ruled by barbarian troglodytes. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle argued that the human race would not know better days until the kings, princes, and rulers of this world have the spirit and power of philosophy. Utilizing Socrates' methods of deductive logic, reasoning, and critical thinking of real and infallible knowledge with an open mind was the essence of an intelligent, civilized human race. For Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, this meant more than anything, eliminating the rich, powerful, indulgent kings of polytheistic religions and cults, enslaving humanity in tyranny and despotism to serve an ethnic god concerned with providing privileges to the chosen people of barbarian kings to the detriment of the common interest of plebeian society. How, in oneness with God, is real knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, and enlightenment of brotherhood. Who? Well, Germany and the 10 northern tribes formed the kingdom of Israel. What? Rejection of God's kingdom of oneness and unity, inviting the ruin of humanity for separate and private interests. Why? To serve Lucifer, the patriarchal godfather of the Alexandrian mafia, mob rule over the Tower of Babel, for the chosen Zionist whores of Babylon, when in 490 BC, kings revolted against the loss of their kingdoms following 509's elimination of kings by the house of Judea and the kingdom of David. How? War of ignorance in 404 BC, Germany and the 10 northern tribes of Israel imposed oligarchy rule over the first republic in the kingdom of Judea and the kingdom of David. In Athens, Greece, defending their divine rights as kings and the chosen people, murdering Socrates and silencing the truth of the one and only intelligent God for the freedom, justice, and equality of all. The Jacobean cornerstone of reality, morality, religion, and the law of humanity through epistemology. It was everything the Jacobean Julia, house of Judea, and the philosopher kingdom of David and Solomon believed in. Socrates was put to death for defending the God of Jacob, Israel, truth, the son of Gaia, the mother of all gods, human philosophical evolution of knowledge, and the first epistemological cornerstone of a civilized human society. The philosophy and science painstakingly accumulated over 1,000 years by the house of Jacob had achieved the Promethean task of discovering the first epistemological cornerstones of reality, morality, religion, and the law, barring any mythological content. Society did nothing to defend Socrates' truth from the evils of barbarian oligarchs, who would declare it a crime punishable by his death for teaching truth and not servitude to the mafia's godfather, Zion, ethnic god of self-serving interest. Society's failure to defend the truth for the common interest of all against the private interest of the despot tyrannical kings invited the ruin of human civilization and the fall into Babylon, with magical cults entertained by orgies and spectacles of unspeakable cruelty, by religions and cults from the synagogue of Satan and the Roman Empire of the East Woods. The German, Jewish, Zionist mob rule of Alexandria, calling themselves nationalist Jews of Israel, worshiping the Luciferian god of hell on earth at war with humanity, and the one woman God of all creative intelligence, logic, reason, knowledge, and principal laws of reality, and the absolute truth of all creation. Socrates lived and died by his principled commitment to seek the truth, speak the truth, and defend the absolute moral truth for the perfection of his mind, body, and soul in oneness with God and the common interest of all humanity. Socrates knew truth was the end of righteousness for all of humanity, and to separate oneself from the common interest by failing to defend the truth with his death would be a failure of intelligence in the pursuit of life, liberty, freedom, justice, and equality for all. The philosopher kings of Judea, David and Solomon, had not ignored the historical lessons, personal and societal, repetitive negative outcomes of rule by the rich and indulgent horrors of German Zionist installed oligarchy, of tyranny and despotism. Understanding them should enable growth and better decision-making by individuals, communities, and the whole human race. Socrates defended the truth of Jacob, Judea, David, Solomon, philosophy, and epistemology to the despicable intellectual failure of Babylonian troglodytes, whores for ignorance and injustice, to his death and honor in a life well lived, according to the laws of Jacob, Judea, David, and Solomon, setting the stage for the salvation of humanity by Julius Augustus Caesar through Jesus Christ and the kingdom of David forever. Socrates' Socratic methods, Plato's theory of knowledge, Plato's Republic, Aristotle's formal foundations in deductive logic, reasoning, and the first alphabet, written languages, dialectic translations, human evolution of knowledge in history, math, science, biology, chemistry, sociology, philosophy, and epistemology were all evolved by the house of Jacob, Judea, and Jesus, in the kingdom of David St. Julian, the Julian colony of Bethlehem and Bethsaida, the Julia Caesars, Gaius, Julius, Augustus Caesars, and founders of Rome. inside God's house of bravery, beauty, strategic planning, material gains, and power. Has the human race completely forgotten human history and the roots of all human knowledge and intelligence as all history evinces? Every generation of humanity, since the fall of the Roman Republic, of Colonitis, and the Kingdom of David, have suffered under Luciferian despotism designed for Satan's theft of your mind, body, and soul by keeping humanity ignorant of the truth, God, and their governments. Did Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle teach, educate, and demonstrate to the human race that questioning oneself and others on politics, religion, and the law should never be taboo, but a civic duty? Did the King James Version of the Bible, Age of Enlightenment, Age of Reason and Common Sense, disclose the repetitive nature, extent, processes, procedures, and operations used by the synagogue of Satan to keep humanity ignorant of God and their global governance? Did they reiterate the importance of civic duty in obtaining knowledge of human history and avoiding the historical lessons, personal and societal, that led to preventing the negative outcomes of Zionist despotism? The great irony of following in the footsteps of Socrates on a virtuous pursuit of knowledge, happiness, and brotherhood is that you're not of this world. You see beyond the shadows and lies of the culture, and you're never understood, let alone believed by the masses who hate you for speaking the truth. As the African proverb says, a speaker of truth has no friends. That's my truth. No friends, family, or understanding. I'm poor, weak, lonely, and humble, conscious of possessing nothing of my own, and voiceless, with God's best interest at heart, seeking unity and oneness with God and humanity in the house of Jacob and the kingdom of David forever. I spent my whole life never having yet met anyone who cared enough about themselves or me to become a true and faithful friend. Voiceless, lonely, and never heard my whole life, my heart has always been dedicated to truth. Since my personal story has significant value and meaning to me, and evolved over time to disclose an immense duty to my ancestors, and in my opinion, the whole human race, I'm informing one and all that it is through knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment on the path to my perfection, I understand and comprehend I am not of this world, and none of you should be. Human history is well documented and very clear that every generation of society in the world for countless generations has suffered beneath the despotism of Lucifer. Just like John Adams disclosed, Lucifer rides humanity like horses, fleeces them like cattle, feeds and clothes them like swine and hounds, and educates them in obedient servitude to their slavery. The criminal insanity of farming humanity is continuously and perpetually robbing the royal we of Gaius of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, because isolated and alone, we do not find the unity to defend the truth, Jesus Christ, and the laws of human civilization. Everyone I have ever encountered or engaged with has totally abandoned their civic duty to question themselves and others on politics, religion, and the laws of humanity. I blogged on WordPress at brsinv.com from 2013 to 2019, my struggles for justice with the criminal RICO mafia-run U.S. government, about my appearances in 3 federal court filings in 3 federal districts on behalf of the public good, They serve as proof that the tyranny Baron Montesquieu warned humanity about was prevalent in Satan's procedural rule over doctors, lawyers, judges, corporations, and government officials, and their betrayals of a civilized society permeate the Tower of Babel in every global federal state and local principality spanning the globe. I wrote a 1,000-page book plus 1,000 citations of prior evidentiary recollections recorded on the long train of abuses and criminal usurpations of treason by the Crown Mafia running the U.S. government. The Crown pursuit of reducing the U.S. population to the absolute despotism of Satan's New World Order, eliminating the people's human rights under the established laws of humanity. I wrote a summary documentation of the criminal acts of lawless, unconstitutional usurpation of human rights. U.S. constitutional rights detailing the long train of abuses, treason by those in power and control, serving Lucifer's flying puppet monkey psychopath milling machine to rule the world. In 2019, I documented on WordPress the discovery that I was a descendant of King David and Peter St. Julian of Toll House, France, Stones and Water of Molokai, circa 1678-79. King David had been murdered in the Battle of St. Denis in November 1678. His son Peter and his children had all their possessions confiscated as they were exiled from the European continent. Peter's children were placed in late indentured servitude for the development of southern plantations in Charleston, South Carolina, by the Lords Proprietors of Carolina for King Charles II of England. The Vatican and Anglican churches of Europe were to ensure the fires would corrupt and consume their priceless treasures with the destruction and loss of all that once existed, as the Celtic French Gallicanism of St. Denis and the Principality of Orange. In April 2021, I began blogging as Blue French Quarter at Substack.com. My research, history, analysis of who, what, when, where, how, and why, with physical evidence of prior recorded history on the Kingdom of David, the Principality of Orange, Simon Peter, St. Julian, and the biblical history recorded by the King James Bible, the works of Baron Montesquieu, both of Toll House, France. While I expect to continue efforts to improve on all my documentation, the time has come for me to begin focusing on telling the story of my life to the Holy Ghost of history. Like David, Jesus, Montesquieu, and King James, planting a garden to believe in a tomorrow in which an intelligent humanity remembers its history. Fair warning to all whose lives played a role in mine. You chose to never know, understand, like, befriend, or believe in me. Not so much as to even take the time for discussion and intelligent questioning of me, your knowledge, or your civic duties and moral responsibilities to humanity. I don't blame any of you for being indolent, ignorant, apathetic, and cognitively disassociated, living in egocentric self-isolationism. We are all victims of the ancient Tower of Babel, all in the seventh generation, consecutive generation of victimization by Satan's ritualistic farming abuse of humanity, in slavery and service to the wealth, power, and control of satanic despotism. I have yet to encounter another child of God who has not given their mind, body, and eternal soul to cabal, and eternal hell. Humanity has become exactly what Satan programmed it to be: deaf, dumb, and blind enough to give him their minds, bodies, and souls for nothing in return. So, in the highly unlikely event you find yourself among the historical account of my life, understand you have hated me for speaking the truth. You have not found what I had to say something meaningful of interest to you. So don't hate me if you don't like the portrayal of your role in my life. It's not about judgment, revenge, or your emotional suffering, but about the expression of the truth as I reflect it. And the truth is that God never harms anyone. Nothing harms us more than the lies we tell ourselves, and mine was believing in truth, justice, and the American way. In the beginning, I asked you to think. Do you know how many wars could have been prevented? Lives saved? Generations of despotism could have been prevented had the horrors of Babylon not been supported by ignorant monkeys taking orders from fools? I have provided the public with a private attorney general working on behalf of the proletariat without compensation from anyone but God since 2012. Not to mention more than a decade of civic investigation before that. I informed the public with written, documented, detailed evidence the crown popery of monarchy ruling the crown of Christ and its vicar in the synagogue of Satan Jacob Israel Rothschild, RICO crime syndicate of religions and cults, global mafia enterprise, keeps humanity at war with truth, God, justice, and equality for the self-preservation of hell on earth. My court cases and documentation serve as proof the Judicial Procedures Act of 1990 was implemented by the mafia and installed as a protection racket for the New World Order conspiracy against humanity. The racket protects the mafia's deep state and deep church hierarchy puppets, Babylonian whores of Lucifer, from any legal accountability for doing the crown's bidding, as they are told by the racketeer-influenced, corrupt, criminal New World Order network enterprise, granting government officers, representatives, and judges absolute immunity from prosecutions, including the corporate hierarchies of socialist corporate control by the crown's brainless billionaire club of Roman whores, especially the Bergoglian acolytes of fascist totalitarian bourgeois communist control. How long has the federal judiciary known it was compromised by the crown popery of Luciferian Zionists? History says, and I have provided proof, the truth is 1803. History says the monarchy has a cruel and despotic history of usurping democracies they create and systematically destroying them through internal rottenness and financial extortion with the mafia's synagogue of satanic religions and cults. I have provided and documented the evidence. The Tower of Babel and the crown of Jesus Christ have been used by Zionist German monarchs to rule the world in Luciferian Zoroastrianism of endless war on human life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, with God in betrayal of their minds, bodies, and eternal souls since Julius Augustus Caesar manifested the crown of Mala, founded on the cornerstones of reality, the rock of Jesus Christ, The Star of David's mother of all gods, the absolute virtue is truth, nothing but the truth, the whole truth, so help me God. I have provided the evidence. My life was targeted by the Crown's criminal RICO enterprise cartel.
Our Supreme Court has now said, unlimited money in politics. It seems a violation of principles of democracy. In the minute or so we have left, your thoughts on that?
It violates the essence of what made America a great country in its political system. Now it's just an oligarchy with unlimited political bribery being the essence of getting.
With malice and intent to steal my life, mind, body, soul through extortion, obstruction, obfuscation, deprivation of human and constitutional rights, financial and psychological rape, trauma-inducing warfare intended to cause post-traumatic stress disorder and suicide, a murder of plausible deniability, procedurally designed and implemented by the Mafia's New World Order into 1991, and new judicial procedures first practiced by the USDA on the 1980s Mafia's triggered farm collapse.
All of the hardships you've gone through. If one of your really good friends, your former colleagues, came to you and said, I have this thing that is being covered up, and I think the American people need to know about it, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them first to pray about it, long and hard. And I would tell them I could take it to Congress for them, or I could put them in touch with Congress, but I would advise them not to do it.
So you would legitimately try to protect one of your colleagues from doing what you have done?
Absolutely.
And how do you think that solves being able to shine light on corruption, weaponization, any kind of misconduct that exists with the American people?
It doesn't solve it. But the FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And we are all examples of that.
I can't think of a more sobering way to end a hearing. I yield back.
In the beginning, I asked you to think.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
I have provided the public evidence. It's up to the people to choose whether they wish to examine and question the evidence and investigate their knowledge of the truth or give their minds, bodies, and eternal souls to hell. I've laid out the facts, evidence, and stand ready to defend the truth with my life as I've done since going after the government. Can you discredit what I have demonstrated as fact? That's a good question, isn't it? This video, like my prior documentaries, contains reference and evidentiary materials to pictograph data correlations of time, date, events, physical evidence, and teachings relevant to data analysis of the topics covered. In silence on Outside the Box with CB, the hope is a viewer will pause an examination of evidentiary documentation for their own educations. This takes significant time and effort beyond simply discussing topics, which I will be doing more of now, having already documented the history of my roots in the Kingdom of David and Peter St. Julian of Malacare, and the fruits of my labors in proving the U.S. government and all its principalities are in fact co-conspirators with the devil in a global RICO enterprise founded on the despotism of human civilization, a specific intent to steal lives and obstruct the will, progress, and natural evolution of humanity's creative collective intelligence. A war of ignorance on humanity and intelligence by a criminally insane, narcissistic, self-propagating patriarchy of psychopaths. On that note, more thoughts on tape outside the box with C.B. St. Julian of Montclair. On February 14th, I posted Jesus, targeted Goyim of the New World Order, about the Mafia's North Carolina Principalities attempt to steal my car and its contents. Targeted harassment by the Mafia's New World Order crusaders. In my last post, Thoughts on Tape, first with no documentation, I voiced my anger at the Mafia-run Principality of Patrick County, targeted criminal conspiracy of extortion, obstruction, and conspiratorial efforts to prevent my ownership, restoration, and development of an existing apple orchard farm in Patrick County, Virginia. The day after I posted my complaints, after obtaining news of Patrick County auctioning off my farm, I received this notice from Glenda C. Morse, a co-conspirator of Satan's New World Order RICO enterprise. The same RICO enterprise I complained of in the original federal court filings against the Mafia-run RICO enterprise, which included Patrick County in the state of Virginia. When the government becomes the lawbreaker, it invites every man to anarchy, in rebellion against tyranny, and in obedience to God. Like all prior mail from extortions, horrors of Satan's RICO enterprise, since filing that lawsuit in 2012, I've had no reason or incentive to pay the Mafia's extortion taxes in Patrick County, which has housed and protected the Mafia in Patrick County, Virginia, for more than 60 years. Just as the Enlightenment awoke to the same reality some 500 years ago, taxation without representation is extortion and theft. I have talked about being targeted since 1999 by the New World Order. However, like humanity, having continuously failed the lessons of Jacob, Socrates, Jesus, and the 7 stars from the house of Judea, some patterns take time and efforts in revealing the truth, and patterns in my life are revealing that perhaps the New World Order has been targeting me since the day I came out of college. And then today, the principalities have just got notice that my neighbor's dog went missing. I mentioned it to my neighbor to help keep an eye out for Daisy because she's a loving, sweet dog who comes to my door and asks to come in, and I let her in. We hang out together. I give her some treats, some water sometimes. She'll hang out with me for an hour or so, and then she'll leave, and she goes back home where she belongs. She's as sweet and loving a dog as I've ever seen. Yes, she has that look of fear, but the only thing she's going to do is lick you silly. And for them to, the principalities to be threatening to take the dog, and then all of a sudden it disappears. So, people, these people do not understand that they're giving their minds, bodies, and souls to Lucifer for money. And they're actually aiding and abetting a criminal racketeering enterprise that dates back almost, 3,000 years in documentation. It shows that these guys started out as the Alexandrian mob of Rome. That this was the crew Jesus was trying to take down. And you people can't learn the lessons of history. You just keep repeating them. Because you're liars. You're addicted to lying. You're addicted to people lying to you. You don't hold them accountable to the truth. You don't have a clue what the truth is. There's not a friggin' one of you living in reality on this planet today because everybody has believed, for the last 250 years, they've been believed and told they were living in a democracy that never existed. And the people who run this country are from families who've been corrupted by this mafia for 7 generations. and they're criminally insane, and you're sitting around watching them commit mass murder and doing nothing but talking about them. And that makes you a flying monkey sociopath who is also criminally insane because you're living in fantasy. Love it. I love it. This is God's perspective. Go figure, Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. The broad extortion and obstruction of my legal rights in pursuit of happiness for my wife and my new family's exit from a criminally corrupted corporate city was met on its first day with a criminal conspiratorial act of obstruction, fraud, and criminal extortion. It took a while before I recognized obstruction and extortion exposing a pattern by Patrick County Building Inspector Jason, local USDA officials, Farm Service Agency representatives, local and real estate companies, and local lawyers and bankers to prevent new construction or development anywhere in Patrick County. See the case evidence filings with the Catholic Mafia appointed Judge Robert J. Conrad. He gave his mind, body, and soul to the devil long ago. I've talked about being targeted since 1999 by the New World Order.
This government will crush you and your family.
However, like humanity, having continuously failed the lessons of Jacob, Socrates, Jesus, and the 7 stars from the house of Jacob, some patterns take time and effort in revealing the truth, and patterns in my life are now revealing strong evidence the New World Order began targeting me upon my graduation from college, and possibly long before that. Given the truth in all my content, I interrupted the pre-recorded thoughts on tape to say I was targeted again, this time by the state of North Carolina claiming unpaid traffic violations on an automobile they just tried to steal. See the post, Targeted Goyim. I know of no violations. The car was wrecked with malicious intent years ago. Another story for thoughts on tape. This is simply another fraudulent criminal intent by the mafia's global extortion operations to abuse the Goy, the premier Jew of all human history.